I went outside this morning to wash our vehicle off because there was some frost on it, and looked up, and there were so many aerosols above our house. This happens so often here in Virginia. It's just disappointing, ladies and gentlemen. All the aerosols, also known as chemtrails, these things are very real, and when I mention these things, people think that I'm some type of conspiracy theorist or whatnot. And the truth of the matter is that these chemtrails are real. It's done through a program, a government program known as solar radiation management. These are known also as high altitude aerosol sprays, ladies and gentlemen, or stratospheric aerosol injections, also known as SAI. This is all done under a program known as geoengineering, the direct altering or manipulation of the weather cycles. And they do this by spraying aerosols filled with different particulates such as, but not limited to, aluminum, barium, strontium, mylar fibers, chaff, different metals, different things like scalar waves. There is a literal chemical and metal cocktail that they have sprayed into the atmosphere, and they've been spraying this stuff for a very long time, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about years they've been doing this. And they have literally, this is a real stat, I believe it was David Keith, I think that's his name, kind of like the poster child for the public when they come out and talk to the public about what they're doing with these aerosols. He said that they've sprayed megatons of aluminum into the atmosphere, and that they don't know the long-term effects of this. So for anyone who wants to get on here and tell me that aerosol or chemtrails are a conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen, they've come public about this. They lied to us for years. They told us that these things were not real, and they somewhat recently came out and said, yeah, we're doing it. It's been in multiple different mainstream magazines. It's been on the mainstream media, on the television, the radio, you name it. They have come out and said that aerosols, also known as what the public calls them, chemtrails, but they like to call it geoengineering. They have come out multiple times now and said that geoengineering is a real program, and we've been doing it for years. We've sprayed megatons of these metals, these particulates, these scalar waves into the atmosphere, and you've just got to shut up and deal with it. Now, one of the things that I hate about situations like this is how they kind of gaslight us. They gaslit us for years, ladies and gentlemen. They made us question our sanity for years, because for years they've been telling us that you're a conspiracy theorist if you believe that these aerosols are real, these chemtrail programs. So what they do is they tell you you're insane for years, even though, the evidence is right above our heads. They tell you that you're crazy or that you're a conspiracy theorist for believing this stuff, and then suddenly one day they just drop it and say that, oh, you know what, these things are real. We've been doing it for years, and you just need to shut up and deal with it. So they've put us into a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where this is the case in many different fronts, not just with aerosols. They've been telling us for years that the fluoride in the water is good for you. It's good for your bones. It's going to, help you be a healthier person, even though just study after study has proven otherwise. Fluoride has been linked to various different, cancers. The increased risk of cancer is heightened highly in men, for instance, as well as women. But I believe the statistics are, fluoride exposure from the water, or just in general, is linked to a higher percentage of likelihood of cancer in men in contrast to women. But they tell us that this stuff is good for us. They tell us that, nothing bad is going on. And then one day the shit hits the fan and they come out and say that, oh, our bad, fluoride is toxic, and we've been adding it to the, water supply for years. But you're just going to have to deal with it. So fluoride, ladies and gentlemen, is a toxic additive that is a byproduct of the aluminum phosphate fertilizer industry, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of how all this stuff goes down in this video. I'm just saying that they have been deliberately adding things into our food and water and air supply for years, and they act like nothing's going on, and they like to call everyone who's privy to what's going on a crazy person, because it's in the best interest of these corporations that are doing this to make the people who are aware of the bad things that are going on about their programs, they want to make you seem like an insane person to the public, because they want to whittle out all of the people who are aware of what's truly going on. And what's truly going on, ladies and gentlemen, what is the story behind all this? The truth is that you have been turned into a completely altered individual. Your biology has been hijacked since you were in utero, and you've been turned into a false creature. You've been turned into a domesticated creature that lives in a false environment. You have been taken out of your normal biological circadian rhythms with all the chemical exposure, all the garbage in the air, all the garbage in the water, the food, you name it. There are so many different things going on. And on top of that, they have erected a system, a culture that allows you to live a completely narcissistic, self-centered lifestyle where you are basically the center of the universe, and you and your appetites and your pleasures are the most important things that need to be constantly satiated. We have been turned into something that we're not, ladies and gentlemen. And this creature that we've identified with, or that this creature that we've created here in this matrix, where we have all these appetites and these constant urges and desires that need to be wedded, so to speak, or satiated, this is how the ego is formulated. The ego, just to kind of branch off really quick, ladies and gentlemen, the ego truly, and most people don't know what the ego actually is. Most people think that the ego is just someone who, or an egotistical person is someone who is overly confident or cocky. The ego, ladies and gentlemen, is the separation of your innocence. It's the you becoming something that you're not. The ego is the part of you who has been molded by your culture. The ego is the part of you that is the non-enlightened self. It's the lower self that has been bred or pumped into you from this culture. It's not. I hope that makes sense. I try to explain this to people sometimes, and I feel like I lose them. You were designed to, let's just explain the ego. You were designed to be an enlightened individual who walked around this beautiful garden that is the world that we lived in, and experience magic and enlightenment and just the absolute bliss and nirvana of life. They have taken us away from that existence and put you into a concrete jungle where it's kind of like a survival of the fittest world, where you have, on top of all that, you've got bills, you've got all this stress, you've got car payments, there's so many different things that separate you from your peace. And on top of that, you have all these desires and, appetites that need to be satiated, and etc. All of this stuff going on, ladies and gentlemen, all of this stress, all of the desires that you accumulate that this matrix wants you to have, all of this stuff separates you from your enlightened, authentic, higher self and puts you into what I like to call the land of the bottom feeder. This is the land of the lower self. Now, the identity that you take on, or the archetype that you take on, the alter ego that you take on while you're in the land of the bottom feeder or the lower self, that is the ego. The ego is the opposite of what you were designed to be. It's the fake version of yourself that you create in this toxic world where you allow culture to define you, or the shoes you wear to define you, or your job, or your income level. We are living a false self-reality, ladies and gentlemen. And if you knew what you were designed to actually experience, if you knew what you were designed to feel like, the nirvana that you were designed to experience, the bliss, the samadhi, the Christ consciousness, the enlightenment, you would be ashamed that you ever even identified or allowed this culture to mold who you are. We have entered into a state of consciousness that is absolutely disgusting. And I don't care if you have a problem with me saying that. The truth is the truth, regardless of whether or not it offends your delicate sensibilities. We were designed to be in a state of nirvana, an orgasmic state of bliss. You think of sexual orgasm is a heightened and elative and enjoyable experience, ladies and gentlemen? The human body was designed to have what's known as the full body orgasm, pretty much 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. When the Kundalini energy moves through your system, it elates and heightens and pleasures all tissues, not just the sexual reproductive organs. This is what the Buddha referred to is nirvana. It's a full body orgasm. Why do you think the Buddha could sit under a fucking tree for 7 to 12, 20 hours at a time without moving? It's because he had bliss moving through his system constantly. When you feel incredible, ladies and gentlemen, when you feel that good, when you experience the non-causal states of bliss, joy, peace, harmony, and nirvana, and physical elation that the Kundalini allows you to experience, you can literally sit in a lotus position, or you can sit on a couch or under a tree for hours on end without even feeling tempted to move, because you feel so good. It's dissatisfaction, it's unhappiness, it's depression that constantly makes us so we can't enjoy peace. We constantly have to move, or we can't just sit still and listen to our thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. We've been occupied with all of these bullshit engrams from our childhood, youth, and all of the trauma that we've experienced from living in this culture. We need to reprogram ourselves. And that's such a rehashed term here in 2020 with all the new age movement, psyops going on and all this garbage. But it's true. We need to reprogram, because we have all of these things we've accepted so many different false beliefs, and we've accepted so many different false views about ourselves. And these things are getting in the way of our peace and our harmony. Now, what does this have to do with the aerosols? What does this have to do with the chemtrails, ladies and gentlemen, and all the bullshit in the food? Why do I talk about these things often? Because it's the truth, for one. And number two, it's affecting us on a cellular level. The aerosols are affecting us on a cellular level. All of the 5G and the Wi-Fi and the wireless, the Bluetooth compatibility and all this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, it's affecting us on a cellular level. The food is affecting us on a cellular level. All of the different additives that have been added to the food. You may think that it doesn't have an effect on your system, but it does. And like I said earlier, regardless of whether or not you believe it's the truth, that doesn't affect me. I know that this stuff is having a massive effect on our genome, on our DNA, on our cellular level, ladies and gentlemen. The foods that you eat that have all the toxic additives, the water that you drink that has all the garbage in it, the Wi-Fi, the wireless, the 5G compatibility, the Bluetooth compatibility, this stuff affects the most minute aspects of the cell, the basic fundamental building blocks of who you are. The wireless, especially the wireless internet, ladies and gentlemen, affects the way that your cells uptake oxygen and regulate themselves. The wireless internet that is permeating throughout your house, ladies and gentlemen, that stuff is invisible pollution, just like Morpheus said in the first Matrix. An invisible prison cell, pretty much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that that's what Morpheus meant when he was talking about that, but symbolically, it's true. When you walk around the house that you live in, where you can have a wireless internet signal, you can have your phone connected, or your laptop connected to your internet signal coming from your house, that stuff is traveling through the air. You can't see it, ladies and gentlemen, but it's there regardless. Now, if it can penetrate through a wall, say your router, your modem, and all your bullshit in your living room is in your living room, and there's a couple of walls dividing your bedroom, but you go into your bedroom and you can still access that signal being broadcast from your living room with your phone, with it, when it's a perfect signal, it's passing through the walls, ladies and gentlemen. If this invisible pollution can pass through a wall, don't you think it's passing through your body? Absolutely it is. And this stuff that passes through our body affects our body. It affects your blood. It affects your cells. Again, it affects your mitochondria. The mitochondria is basically the engine of the cell. It affects all of these minute things within your physiology. Now, your cell is composed of cytoplasm, cellular fluid, a nucleus, mitochondria, and different things known as organelles, which basically means little organs. Your cells, ladies and gentlemen, actually have little compartments, little pieces that function as little minute organs within your cell. Now, one of the greatest ways to mind control a biological entity is to affect the basic building blocks of his or her physiology, and that's how this stuff operates. The wireless, the food, the water, the aerosols, the bad air, all of this stuff affects your, not just your large organs, your liver, your kidneys, your spleen. It affects the endocrine glands, your thymus, your pituitary, all of the pineal gland, all of this stuff, your thyroid, but it affects the organelles, the minute building blocks of the cell. Now, if you take something that's designed to be in harmony, if you take I just dropped my phone. If you take away the harmony or the health of any organ in the body, you take away the balance of that organism. Health is a state of harmony, ladies and gentlemen. It's a state of flow. And when you take away flow from the human body, especially on the cellular level, you take that organism out of harmony. And when you take, again, something out of harmony, you create duress, you create stress, you create a lack of harmony, a lack of flow. And what happens when you have that? You have issues, ladies and gentlemen. It's just like a river. If you dam a river up and you don't have adequate filtration, what happens? You get stagnation. Stagnation brings all of the bad parasites, the bugs, the algae. Things start dying. What happens when you take away harmony and flow inside of an organism? Well, it leads to bad health. And bad health not only damages the tissues of the human body, the blood, the organs, but due to the fact that the mind and the body are intimately connected, when you damage the health of a physical organism, you affect the mind connected to that organism. So there's mind control going on here, ladies and gentlemen. And there's physical pollution going on as well. So the two work in tandem. Mind control is much more than just related to the mind. Oftentimes, the system goes to the body to pollute the mind. They pollute your body so that your mind can become a mirror of that state of bad health. So I don't give a good goddamn if people have an issue with the fact that I say these things. The truth is the truth, regardless of whether or not, as I said earlier, it affects your delicate sensibilities. And people have become so hyper neurotic when it comes to their sensibilities. People are so offended and triggered at anything nowadays. People just want to live in this, sterile little bubble where nothing that they view as offensive can come into the bubble, and they just want to believe that they're all correct all the time. This narcissistic, self-centered ego complex that people constantly need to feed and have solidified by their external environment. Nowadays, if people get offended nowadays if they have opinions that are different than theirs. This world is like the upside down world from that TV show, The Stranger Things. It's like we've entered into this alternate universe where chaos is just rampant. And those with eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts to feel will be able to see this. So I'd like to live in the world that we were designed to live in, ladies and gentlemen. My goal in life is to do my best to, or at least one of my goals in life is to do my best to help usher in new thoughts or a new way of living, to help inspire people to see the world differently, to see past the illusions, to see past the matrix, to imagine a world of perfection, where we didn't have all this chaos going on, all these wars, all this insanity, all this confusion, all this mind control, all the toxic additives in the foods, the injections, the air. We are a very powerful species, but we've forgotten that because we do not remember who we are or what our purpose is. We came here with spiritual amnesia. We've forgotten who we are. And if you knew who you were, which is, for lack of a better term, God, you and God are one and the same. The human body is the vehicle of God. We are a demigod, ladies and gentlemen. But chances are that, conflicts with your religious programming, and you're designed to think that God's outside of yourself, and you feel guilty for even thinking that you could be God. Ladies and gentlemen, and what do you think enlightenment is? Enlightenment is you becoming your creator. You are that which created you. When the creator creates something, it doesn't separate itself from its creation. You have the spark of life within you. You have the spirit that transgresses after death. You're an eternal fucking thing, ladies and gentlemen. You have the most divine gift ever, eternal life. You don't remember that because you fear death, because you have how you've been programmed. But what do you think enlightenment is? Enlightenment is you becoming God again. What happens when you experience Kundalini? You remember who you are. And anyone who's had an authentic Kundalini experience will know exactly what I'm talking about. When you experience Christ consciousness, which is just another term for a Kundalini awakening, you can do anything. There are no limits. There are no boundaries. This is how we were designed to be. We were designed to be creators. But they've put us in these concrete jungles, saturated these concrete jungles with electromagnetic pollution from all the cell phone towers. They've given us these mind control robots to carry around in our pockets, also known as cell phones or smartphones, even though they're dumb. They make you dumber. I'm not going to go on about how they've done this, but they've done a damn good job, ladies and gentlemen, turning a very enlightened species into a walking group of quite literal zombies. To go out in public and to view the masses it's just disheartening. It's disgusting to see how we've been conned, duped, hoodwinked, and bamboozled into this ego-driven, narcissistic, self-centered, appetite and desire-driven culture, where basically your appetites, your desires, and your well-being is the center of what drives your existence. You've become so self-centered that you don't extend your compassion to others. You don't extend your compassion to the millions and millions of animals that are just slaughtered in the most brutal, carnage-driven way every year. You don't extend your compassion because your desires, your temptations, and everything in your life is the most important thing ever. We've got to experience more unity, ladies and gentlemen. And unity is much more than just saying that you love your neighbor and that you love everything. Unity is doing your best to help others other than your damn self. There's so many people in this world at such high positions of power that don't do shit. It's recently come to my attention, ladies and gentlemen, that a group of individuals recently got paid over $200 million to write shows for a particular, movie streaming platform. Over $200 million to write television shows. What the fuck? And our troops and other, our law enforcement, they make 30 to maybe 80 grand a year. But these individuals writing television shows get paid that much money. These professional football players getting paid over $20 million a year. And what do they do with it? It's weird to me that we live in a world where oftentimes the people that have the most money don't know how to invest it and don't do anything creative or evolutionary with it. If I had $100 million, ladies and gentlemen, I would do some incredible things with free energy technology. I have some inventions I just don't have the funding for these inventions that I plan on releasing. I could do some amazing things with let alone $1 million, $100 million? I could start a renaissance with $100 million. Why are we such a self-centered and ego-driven culture? I just don't understand how we've become so stupid and so lazy and so, again, it all comes down to being self-centered. I'm not saying I'm not saying that we shouldn't, care for ourselves and we shouldn't strive to be happy and, seek out things that make us happy, because that's important. But when it gets to a point where you're making like 20 million a year and you're just using it to buy stuff and not help others, that's just ridiculous in my opinion. It is what it is, folks. It is what it is. But I'm going to wrap this one up. Just a brief little rant, ladies and gentlemen. Take care of yourself. Take care of your health. By taking care of your health, you can achieve greater states of consciousness, because when you depollute the body that is the physical vessel for the mind, you can achieve a greater state of mental clarity. And mental clarity is the key here in this world. Mental clarity is the key here in this world. Why do you think they're trying to program you to such an extent that they are? It's because they don't want you to be able to perceive truth. They don't want you to be able to see past the control. They want to keep your consciousness in a very limited bandwidth so that you experience the reality that comes from living in that limited state of consciousness. See, by giving you a set of glasses that you look at reality through, they can largely contribute to what you perceive in this reality. By taking the glasses off, you can start to take in more of the colors and stop looking at reality through that filtered lens. That filtered lens needs to come off. The filtered lens needs to come off. By truly looking at reality for what it is, that's how we begin to change, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of how absolutely traumatizing that can be. You see, the truth is painful. The truth is a hard pill to swallow. And all these people who say that they took the red pill or that they've, no, you haven't. The truth is a very difficult pill to swallow. Enlightenment and true healing is a very tempestuous, difficult path. It is not something, the road to healing and the road to enlightenment, the road to reconstructing the damaged self, ladies and gentlemen, the road of rebuilding the body of Osiris, which is you, is not easy. And it's filled full of traps, and it's filled full of sadness. Because rebuilding yourself requires you to face your shadow. It requires you to become spiritually mature, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a lot of turmoil that comes from that because you've got to rebuild the old self. I'm not saying that it's just complete hell, but it's not easy. Deconstructing the old self and looking at things the way that they actually are can be very difficult. And it's much easier for people to just ignore it. Why do you think ignorance is bliss? What do you think Cypher meant in the movie The Matrix when he said that? Rebuilding the temple of Osiris, ladies and gentlemen. Your body is the temple of Osiris. In Egyptian mythology, Osiris's body was broken apart into multiple pieces and scattered across, I believe, the Nile River. That is largely symbolism for man and womankind's true self being torn apart. The process of finding the body parts, which in Egyptian mythology, Isis, the goddess Isis, had to go and find the scattered parts of Osiris. Isis is a Kundalini goddess, ladies and gentlemen. The story of Osiris being rebuilt or gathered the parts back together by Isis, the goddess, is symbolism for the Kundalini reconstructing the broken man and woman. And what is the broken man and woman? It's again the part of you, or it's the you that's been defined from your youth by culture. I'm trying to figure out how to turn my thermostat's broken right now, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you guys can hear the fan constantly spooling in the background. It's irritating as hell. So we were born in innocence, regardless of what the Christian Catholic Church wants to tell you, that you're born in sin and that you're an evil person. What the hell? You're born in innocence, and from a young age you start identifying with the world around you, which is given to you by the overlords, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me one moment. See if I can... There we go. Turn that fan off. From a young age, you're molded by the world around you. And the world around you is not an enlightened world. It's a self-centered world. And you become something that this culture wants you to become. Now, I was going to go off on a million different tangents about that, but I just want to keep it simple, and I want to kind of wrap this one up. We were designed to be enlightened. We have spiritual amnesia. The process of real spiritual awakening is realizing this and rebuilding yourself to become enlightened. That's what we were designed to be. That's why I brought up the whole parable or story of Isis rebuilding Osiris. Osiris was butchered basically and scattered across the Nile River by an entity known as Seth or Set. This is largely allegorical and largely metaphorical, ladies and gentlemen. The body of Osiris is a symbol for largely man and womankind. In an enlightened state, we are the perfected Osiris. In a non-enlightened state, we are the Osiris that's been scattered across the Nile. We have to bring everything back together and make it whole. We have to take the division of two and make it one again. We have to re-enlighten the liver, the tissues, the thymus, the gallbladder, the pituitary. All of these aspects are these organs that make up the human body, which when all united, ladies and gentlemen, when the Kundalini moves through the human body, it anoints all of these tissues, all of the organs, all of the endocrine glands, all of the little organelles within the cell, the blood vessels, the nerves, the ganglia, the tissues, the pia mater, the dura mater, cerebellum, all of these different aspects and parts of our physiology become united and sing a harmonious tune when enlightenment moves through us. When enlightenment moves through us, when the Kundalini energy moves up the cerebral spinal system through three channels known as the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna, when the Kundalini moves up these channels, it moves from the pelvic floor, which is hell, up the spinal ganglia, up the 33 vertebra of the human spine, which are also known as the 33 steps on the stairway to heaven. And when it gets into the brain, when it gets crucified by the medulla oblongata and moves past the Golgotha, the land of Golgotha, when it gets into the brain, it hemisinks or bridges the schism between the right and left lobes of the body or the brain, and in doing so, it allows you to experience unity. There's no division anymore between the divided lobes of the brain, between the divided aspects of the self. This is known in alchemical circles as the lovers united. The real story of love, in legends, ladies and gentlemen, or at least in alchemical lore, the lovers uniting is the right and left lobes of the brain, or the divided aspects, the male and female aspects of the human being becoming united. You have these divisions within yourself currently. Enlightenment is the process of attaining physical and spiritual, emotional, and mental health, and being able to gather enough energy to unite these divided aspects within yourself, because through division, you will not experience unity. Through unity, only through unity or accumulating the resources to attain unity, physiologically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you name it, can you experience unity. Kundalini is that loving embrace that unifies the non-unified self. Ladies and gentlemen, we are existing in a very incredible time currently. This is an amazing time to be alive, ladies and gentlemen. We have freedom. We have enough freedom right now to embrace the path of the wounded healer. We have enough freedom, especially here in the United States, to embrace true spiritual change. You have the ability to attempt to become something greater. And that, to me, is largely one of the meanings. To me, the meaning of life is to merge with the divine. When you do that through Kundalini. But another meaning of life, or part of the meaning of life, you can't really say that there's only one meaning of life, but part of the meaning of life is to change, to grow. That's why all life is constantly looking to evolve, ladies and gentlemen. Evolution is the game here. And you have the ability to change your life today. You can make changes today in your life that forever shape or reshape the outcome of your life. We live in an input equals output world. What you put into something directly affects what you get out of it. So you can listen to this message right now and decide to make change within your heart and actually start walking a path of greater health. You can start to embrace change. It's not as difficult as you may think it is. Anyone can buy a shower filter. Anybody can buy a water filter. Anybody can start experimenting with herbs. Anyone can start wearing gems. Gems, if worn by a energetically sensitive individual, can help the mind transmute, especially if you take these gems and turn them into something known as organite. Talk about that more in the future. We can transmute things, ladies and gentlemen. The problems that you may have in your life right now, the angst, the anger, the depression, that emptiness that you may feel that's so common here in the Matrix, that can be used as the fertile grounds to regrow your life. Take the shit in your life, which things grow out of shit, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think plants, etc., are grown in? They're grown in shit. You can take the shit of your life, which is a metaphor for all the problems, and you can use that as a fertile regrowing ground for having a greater existence. You see, we get so caught up in our problems that we forget that we can use them as transmutational devices to move forward, to literally propel us into the future. We identify, or we take on the role of depression, we take on the role of anger, we let these things hold us back. But we can change, folks. We have the ability to constantly make change if we choose to. But it all comes down to a choice. Do we want to stay where we currently are, or do we want to move forward? Do we want to become something greater? And it's not that you're not great now, but to identify or think that you can't constantly grow is preposterous, because when you stop growing, what happens when you stop growing? You experience a stasis or a halting of growth, and that's when things start to wear and tear and you start to die. We need to constantly grow, challenge our minds, move past obstacles. The body and the mind loves these challenges. But when you forget that they're challenges, you trick the body and the mind into staying in stasis, and that's when things break down. Stasis is essentially just another way of saying a halting of growth, a stopping or a pausing of growth. When we choose to forget that these are challenges that we can move past, and we identify with the challenge and things that the challenge is just there forever, we forget that it's a challenge. We forget that depression and anxiety and all these things, sadness, these are stepping stones for growth. They're challenges. And what are challenges? Challenges are by default something that can be overcome. That's why it's a challenge. A challenge is basically an invitation to change something, or to move past it, or to grow out of it, or to win. Take shape of your life, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Take charge of your life. Every minute wasted is a minute that you cannot get back. And use your time wisely. Time is on your side if you can learn to embrace it. Time is your greatest ally. It can also be your greatest detriment, because once you waste enough time and you look back on your life, which is a natural process, or it's a natural mental and spiritual and emotional construct to reflect on your life. That is one of the things that the soul and the spirit does when it incarnates into different realities. It constantly reflects on itself, on its progress. And if you waste a lot of time and you look back on your life and you realize that, holy shit, I've wasted half of my life, that leads to guilt. Guilt drives depression, and depression leads to a destruction, because depression leads to unhealthy thinking patterns, which create unhealthy belief patterns, which can accelerate aging and your demise. But it also drives depression, it also drives addiction. Guilt leads to depression. Depression drives so many different unhealthy things, especially addiction. So I do indeed hope that these messages can inspire you to make massive change in your life. I don't have a large channel, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that my messages are being suppressed to a large extent by the YouTube algorithm. I'm not saying that I'm watched by the government or anything like that, but I do think that the algorithm does not work in my favor here on YouTube. But if you do get this broadcast, and if you've listened this far, I challenge you to make massive change in your life. And don't let it be stressful. Don't think that you have to make hundreds of changes instantaneously. Sometimes the biggest and most challenging change is the most simple one. Make that first change. Don't, stress yourself and think that you have to become a superhero overnight. You already are a superhero. You have the ability to transmute things. You have the ability to actually perceive change and to actually make change. You're a human being. You are a divine vessel of the Creator. You have the ability to become enlightened. You can do anything. I want to be the individual in your life that tells you that you can achieve anything. I'm not here to put limitations on you, because limitations are for the weak-minded. They're for the uninitiated. The uninitiated believe that there's limitations. And to teach limitations is not to be a real healer. It's not to be a true teacher. Because a real teacher knows that there are truly no limitations. We just have forgotten that. And we exist in a state of consciousness where it often triggers people to even hear that we don't have limitations. Think about how weird that is, that you have a problem with me saying that you can achieve anything. That's strange to me. I want to understand the psychology of that. Excuse me. But like I said earlier, sometimes the littlest change creates the biggest outcome. That one thing that you've been refusing to do that you know you need to do, whether it be quitting cigarettes, alcohol, maybe just, ending the consumption of one particular food. Make that change. You can do it. Once you make one positive change, it oftentimes opens the door for 10 other positive changes. And before you know it, you're going to get some momentum and some traction and some friction. And you need some friction. Once you achieve something that helps you and benefits and makes you feel better, you start to put the rubber on the road, so to speak. You gain traction, and that traction propels you to move forward. It propels you to make more progress. Progress in positive growth is how we create healthy states of mind, ladies and gentlemen. It's how we combat depression. It's how we grow out of these unhealthy states. We have access to so many different tools nowadays: supplements, teas, herbs, mind power books, mental retraining programs, meditation, solar therapy, heliotherapy. We have some of the most powerful tools available to help us grow. What's holding you back? What's holding you back? Transmutation is the alchemist's best friend. We're all alchemists, ladies and gentlemen. We're constantly taking energy and changing its path. We're constantly taking things and changing them and turning them into things. We're constantly shifting energy. We're constantly changing and evolving, ladies and gentlemen. That's what alchemy is all about. The distillation of things, the improvement of things, the accumulation and redistribution of energy. According to the alchemist's will, we can literally change our lives. If we realize within the deepest levels of our cellular memory who we are and what our purpose is, we can achieve anything. We're all alchemists. Quick tip for anyone who's interested. If you're interested in learning more about alchemy, one of the greatest books that you could ever read on alchemy is a book called Overcoming the Archon Through Alchemy by John Kreider. These are available in my Amazon store. Links in the description box below. If you buy them through my Amazon store, I get a small percentage of the revenue, and it helps support my channel. in my cause. Overcoming the Archon, Archon, through alchemy by John Crider. Read that book in a very short period of time. It's so good it just grabs you and you want to keep reading it. I'm about to reread it. Incredible amount of information in that book on how to change your life for the better, using the 3 alchemical tiers on the alchemical triad known as the void polarity, the in polarity, and the out polarity. I've had visions, ladies and gentlemen, of what this earth was designed to look like, and I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing until I see change in this world. And I already see it happening. But this world, folks, in some of my deepest states of hypnosis and altered states of consciousness, Kundalini experiences, out-of-body experiences, and astral travels, I was allowed to see what this earth was designed to look like. It is a fucking paradise, to say the least. This earth is absolutely incredible. When the oceans are pristine, when the air is pristine, and when we start tapping into the shamanic current of nature, and we start tapping into nature to evolve instead of technology, when we create a shamanic science between the technological world and the natural world, when the two unite in harmony, when the beneficial forms of technology mix coherently and accurately and safely with the shamanic technologies of nature, or the psychedelics, the entheogens, ladies and gentlemen, when we tap into the natural, etheric, and astral broadband and internet of the natural world, when we start to tap into the shamanic kingdoms of earth and start interacting with the auras of trees and animals, and we merge that with beneficial forms of technology for growth, ladies and gentlemen, we are standing on the epicenter. We are standing on the cusp of a massive spiritual renaissance. What's helped tip the lever in that benefit, or for that, what's helped that change happen? Excuse me. What's helped that change happen? But this earth is designed to be an absolute paradise. It's so advanced and so incredible and so hyper evolutionary that no words. I fear that my words just. I fear that there's no words to accurately describe what this earth was designed to look like. Wow. What an incredible gift to be alive. What an incredible gift to be alive. The earth actually has around it something known as a Christ consciousness grid, ladies and gentlemen. It's basically the earth's aura. And that is currently in a state of disharmony, and that's why there's so much disharmony here on earth. That's not the only reason why there's a lack of harmony here on earth, but to a large extent, it plays a large contributing factor. Let's just put it that way. So the United States government undertook a program known as Operation Starfish Prime, where they tried to damage these various levels of the Earth's aura. I'll talk about that in the near future, and that's in no way, shape, or form the only program that they utilized to do this. There was stuff going on way before this where they were damaging the Christ grid on the Earth, as well as all the detonation of bombs on the Earth and all the nuclear weapons. They have detonated so many different bombs on Earth that have completely just reshaped history, ladies and gentlemen. They've damaged so many different aspects of the Earth's electronic field, its electromagnetic field, with all the bombs. Again, Operation Starfish Prime. Look that up. Where they tried to blow holes in the ionosphere. It's a very real thing. It's declassified. Don't you dare try to call me a conspiracy theorist, fool. Do your research. Counter research what I'm talking about, and you'll come to the same goddamn conclusion that I have. That this is the real. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no benefit from lying to you. There is no fucking agenda on my part to lie to you. That's why I'm telling you to counter research what I'm talking about, so that you can come to your own conclusions. Because I guarantee you, if you use a legitimate form of reasoning, you'll find out that I'm not bullshitting you. These states of consciousness that I talk about, Kundalini, these things can be experienced. These things have been experienced. These are not just hocus pocus, hippity dippity, flip flop, acid pipe dreams. These are real things. Hundreds of thousands of people have experienced the Merkaba. Hundreds of thousands of people have experienced Kundalini. Hundreds of thousands of people understand through experience that the body has multiple different energetic fields around it that we're currently not in harmony with, to the point where we can't even communicate with them, see them, interact with them, touch them, or even sense them anymore. This state of falling away from our electromagnetic field, our aura, our Merkaba, our etheric levels, our astral body, this is how we've been turned into a mind-controlled idiot slave species. By taking away our energy field, they've separated us from our energy, because our energy fields, ladies and gentlemen, these subtle organizing energy fields that every living organic organism harbors, this is what connects us to the truth. It's what connects us to the Earth's aura. And by separating us from that, they've turned us into a mind-controlled slave species. I'm going to wrap this one up, folks. I need to get going. You can achieve anything, and I believe in you. Peace be with you all. I wanted to personally thank you for watching my videos and contributing to the growth of my channel. I could not do this without you, and your interest in my content is truly what motivates me and fuels my passion for making these videos and spreading my message. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wanted to remind you that this channel is a free educational tool that is listener supported, and if you would like to donate to my channel and donate to my cause, help make my life a little bit easier and help keep the lights on around here, you can do so by checking out the links in the description box below. There's a handful of not only ways to donate to my channel, but I also have links to different websites and different videos of mine, as well as my Amazon store, where you can check out a plethora of different health-related products that I use and recommend. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your continued interest in my message, and until next time, peace be with you all.